grandmothers have asked for me to introduce and to tell a little bit about the story that brought us all together. My name is Jyoti. I'm one of their ambassadors. There are 4 of us. There's Madrinha Rita out of the Brazilian Amazon. There's Grandmother Pauline, and there is a Princess Constance de Polignac from France, and then myself. And the grandmothers have given me the most humble title, which is their traveling ambassador charged with the mission. So let me go back in time just a little bit and tell you about how this story began. It began, I would say, probably many years ago inside the hearts of all of us. That's why we're all gathered here together today. But as time unfolded itself, about 20 years ago, many of us began to have promptings from Spirit telling us about a time when the grandmothers would gather. We didn't understand exactly what all that meant. We just knew that that's what we were hearing. There would come a time when the grandmothers would gather. Myself and my husband and many people had gathered around a community called Cayamari, and we had acquired some property in the Sierra foothills of California. And we started there because the Mother had asked us, the Divine Mother had asked us to gather together and to create a safe place where people could come to pray from all the 4 directions. She said, I don't care how you pray, it's most important that we pray as we go through this time of great change on the planet. And so that's what we did, and that was in 1995. In 1998, we were in ceremony when the Divine Mother came to us, and she said to me, I'm going to give you one of my most precious baskets, and in this basket I'm going to put some of my most treasured jewels. These jewels represent lines of prayer that go back to the original times. Do not mix them, do not change them. Protect and keep them safe, and walk them through the doorway of the millennia and hand them back to me. I have something we're going to do. Now, I didn't understand the vision, nor did any of those that were with me. We were a bit innocent in our acceptance of this mission. But up our 14-mile logger road came elders from these lines of prayer that initiated us and began to teach us how to take care of them and how to protect this basket. Part of the journey happened when I ended up going with my youngest son and his wife, Dana, to Africa, to Gabon, Africa, to meet with Grandmother Bernadette Ribano, who is also a member of this council. We were going there to meet with her and the Buwiti people and to speak to them about some healing rites with Iboga that help to heal addiction. We went there with that purpose. While we were there, this vision came forth and wanted to share itself. And so I shared it, and I shared more about the community of Cayamari and how it had grown across the United States and into Europe and outside of Prague, and with a house in the deep Brazilian Amazon forest. And she got quite excited about some of this news, and she said, just a moment, and we began to talk about a letter that had been shown to us that she had signed with the Ayahuascanderos in Peru that year. In this letter it said, we were here before governments came, and we will be here after governments leave. It is no longer okay for people to go into our forest and to take our medicines and patent them without our permission and use them without their teachings. It is time for First Nation peoples all over the planet to stand up in solidarity and to claim their birthrights as keepers of this planet. And she said, now it's time for you to go get this done. I'm having a similar vision. It's time to gather the grandmothers, go get this done. I was on my way to the Amazon to meet with Grandmother Claire and Grandmother Maria Lisi, who I've known for almost 20 years. I've been going there, learning from them and growing with them and their families. So I was on my way there. They knew I was going to Africa. We were going to be on a barge that was going to go down into the deep interior of the Brazilian Amazon into a region called Judawa. It's a 3-day trek on a barge. They met me at the barge and were quite excited and animated, and they asked me, so George, they call me George, they said, George, what happened in Africa? So I began to tell them how this whole story unfolded, and Maria Lisi got quite excited, and she went up and brought back with her a letter that she had signed with her daughter Julia with 6 tribes in the Juruá region of the Brazilian rainforest. She had signed it about the same time as this letter from Bernadette, and it read almost identical to the letter from Bernadette. And they said to me, "George, it's time. Go get this done." Now, I wasn't quite sure how to get this done. I went back home, I began to pray and to meditate, and finally my grandmother, she came to me and she said, "Don't worry, granddaughter, if you will start with the seed of it all, and the seed of it all has to do with relations. If you will start there, then everything will unfold naturally. Don't you worry." So I wrote a letter and I sent it out to all of our community and all of the places that it lived. And I told them what was happening and what we were being asked to do, and for them to go to their elders, because we'd been walking this way a long time, and ask their advice. Because you see, I'm a simple woman and I wasn't quite sure if I could hear correctly which grandmothers the universe was calling. So that's what we did. And they went out, and all of the different people in our community brought back 16 names of grandmothers. And we wrote a letter describing this process. Anne Rosenkrantz, who's been walking with me all along, her and Darlene Hunter, many others in our community. We wrote this letter, sent it out, 13 names came back. Now, we didn't understand at that point in time that there was prophecy that lived amongst many of the nations around the world that spoke about a time when 13 grandmothers would come to sit in council and wake the world. We didn't know that. We prepared, though, a gathering in upstate New York in a little town called Phoenicia at the Dalai Lama's Medicine Buddha Retreat Center called Minla. And 13 grandmothers answered our request, and they came. They came from the 4 directions. They came from North America, South America, Central America. They came from Africa. They came from Tibet. They came from Nepal. They came from up in the cold country of Alaska. They came from all the 4 directions of the earth. None of us really understood why we were gathering, but we felt the importance of the gathering. We felt the strength of the gathering. We were going to meet first in private council, and then we were going to open our doors to leaders and women leaders in the West that have really done a lot to change the fabric of our reality. So this dialogue could begin. We entered, the grandmothers started to recognize each other. We all felt something enter when they entered, something quite profound. The grandmothers just went into closed council and they asked to hear this vision again, and so I shared it once again, the vision of the basket. And they decided to accept this basket. At that same time, they decided that they would stay under the blanket of the Center for Sacred Studies. We were the ones that had convened this, and even though we offered our organization to them, they decided they wanted us to help organize these events and to continue walking with them so we could organically watch how the prayer would unfold. And that's what we've done. And Grandmother Agnes, who's the eldest on this council, she's 86 now, and she said, "Girls, if we're going to make relations, then we've got to go to each other's home places and hold this vigil of sacred prayer with our sacred fire for 7 days for world peace and unity. In this way, we will come to know each other's families, each other's land, each other's language, each other's culture. And we will model as we travel the world how this many women from all different lines of prayer and life and culture can sit down at a round table and model unity and peace amongst all people. That it is not our differences, it is that should get in the way. It is actually what will bring us together." And I, of course, was having a little bit of a heart moment because It takes quite a lot of money, around $200,000 or more, to bring the grandmothers and their traveling companions and their translators all together. And to do this every 6 months, I knew it was going to take a miracle, and it has. But we have accomplished it up to now, and we're doing it for our children's children's children, 7 generations and beyond. Now, that one last thing I want to leave you with is that this has been guided by Spirit's hand since its inception. Grandmother Rita Blumenstein told us a story which kind of emphasizes that nature. She told us in New York about a time when her grandmother sat her down when she was a little girl, 9 years old, and said, there will come a time when you will be asked, when you're old and gray like me, to sit on a council of 13 grandmothers. I have made 13 sacred bundles, and I have gathered 13 white eagle feathers. Protect them and keep them safe. And when that time comes, hand this bundle to each and every grandmother, and take one for yourself and sit down and know that I am standing behind you, and so are all of your ancestors, and the time that we've been preparing for is now. It was a profound moment, and it accentuated the necessity for us to wake up and stand up with our grandmothers and march for world peace and unity amongst all people, and the healings of our peoples and this beautiful earth we call Gaia. May you have a wonderful gathering and walk in the mystery that the grandmothers will unfold for you. This is my prayer.